Welcome to my audio commentary on Ephesians, this section, Ephesians chapter 1, just one verse, verse 14. My name is Steve Sweetman. Ephesians 1:14 reads, "The Holy Spirit is the down payment of our inheritance until the redemption of the possession to the praise of His glory." Now, we mentioned about the Holy Spirit in verse 13 of chapter 1. The Holy Spirit is the validating seal that proves a person is a real, legitimate Christian. Without the Holy Spirit, one cannot be a Christian. Romans 8:9 makes it clear. It says, anyone who does not have the Spirit of God does not belong to God. That is something to think about. In our evangelical gospel today, we cannot omit the reality that the Holy Spirit is the proof of one being a real Christian. Here in verse 14, Paul says the Holy Spirit, He Himself in our lives, is the down payment of a better reality. We do not have salvation to its full in this era in which we live. Right now, we possess a sinful nature. There will come a time when we will not possess that sinful nature. 1 John 3:2 tells us that when Jesus appears, we will be like Him. I've said it before, but in Genesis, the creation account, God created man in His likeness and image. The Hebrew language suggests a shadowy image of God was man created. Man was not created as another God. He was created as a shadowy image of God. The Christian, at some future point, will be recreated into the very likeness and image of Jesus. As Jesus is presently in His form, whatever that form is, we will be like Him. And if you look into Romans 8, it's around verse 38 and through there, Jesus is the firstborn of a new creation. Every Christian is the second, third, fourth, thousandth, millionth born of that new creation. There's going to be a whole new creation, and that's the creation of those who will be transformed into the likeness of Jesus Himself. But right now, we have a down payment of that. We have the Holy Spirit in our lives. It's an inheritance. We have the beginning of an inheritance, Paul says here. The rest will be coming later, until the day of redemption, or until the redemption of the possession. There's going to become a time when our redemption will be finalized. Salvation is a process. We have been saved, we are being saved, we will be saved. Redemption is a process. We were redeemed, we are in the process of being redeemed throughout this life, but there will come a day, the day of redemption, when we will be fully redeemed. And as Paul says here in verse 14, it will be to the praise of God's glory. The day that we become like Jesus will be the day that God is just totally glorified in us. That will be someday. Now, about that word glory, I mentioned it in the last section. It's translated from the Greek word doxa, means to think highly of something or someone, to have a high esteem of someone or something. So when we are recreated into the very likeness and image of Jesus, we ourselves, our very presence, will speak well of God. We will speak well of God. Our very existence, not just what we say, will speak well of God, but who we are will speak well of God. Really, right now, as individual believers and as the church, we should be speaking well of God, not just our words, but our lifestyles. But of course, we are still human. We still have that sinful nature that causes a distraction. And so our speaking well of God in our lifestyles is somewhat fuzzy at times. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next session.